Our purpose is to build a holistic voice that creates a community of like-minded, healthy people for a healthier planet. Our goal is to unify the community, nourishing the growth in mind, body, spirit, awareness, and wellness. We want to engage our community and visitors so they have access to powerful momentum of the holistic presence in our community. We do this by creating awareness through interviews, providing education and awareness of cutting-edge modalities. We also provide access for consumers to quality natural health and wellness professional and practitioners and like-minded business that support this community. Thank you for listening with us on Healthy Planet One. Stay with us for the next interview with our next holistic guest.
Hi, everyone. This month's focus is all about the creative process, finding joy and fun in the daily life through various ways and modalities. This is a very diverse topic, and we have 4 exciting guests to share from their fields of focus. And we invite you to listen in each week. Right now, we're going to be introducing Michael Massanelli. He's a fitness therapist that specializes in human mechanics and exercise science. So he's got over 20 years experience in the health and fitness industry to bring to the table today. And he's also a pioneer in helping revise outdated fitness philosophies. His therapy is called movement. I'm really excited about that. So what I'm also excited about is that he seems to get to the root cause of tightness. So Michael, welcome today. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you.
Great. So, well, getting to the root cause of tightness. So can we start with, you do a lot of stuff with muscles. We're talking all about the muscles here. Why do muscles tighten up?
Well, muscle tightness is created by neurological weakness. When a signal to a muscle doesn't respond appropriately, other muscles or other fibers of the same muscle have to work harder. And that creates a slack in the muscle spindle. When working muscles are protecting the body, it creates an instability or it's an instability that creates the tightness and creates the pain.
You know, I'm going to just jump in here, Michael. Something was really interesting the other day when you were sitting at the table. Somebody told me this. They said that they were so impressed by you because you had this like rubber band in your hand, right?
Right.
And you asked somebody to hold it, and they held it. And then you said, well, pull it tight. And then you told them to just let it relax, and they leaned in. And the person that was watching this was like blown away. Like, that so makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what you're talking about. That's how you loosen tight muscles. It sounds simple, right?
Right. You got to stop pulling on things if you want it to relax.
So how did you get involved in all this stuff in the first place, Michael?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps and I was in the fitness, and I was introduced, thankfully, about 20 years ago to this technique. But I was into Aaron Mattis and the stretching techniques. I was a massage therapist. I had my own personal injuries that I was trying to deal with, and I went through these different things to try to find help for them. And finally, I was given the right answers to what I was needing, and come to find out it was all this neurological weakness that my body was fighting.
Mm-hmm. And so that started your journey on figuring out how to unwind all this stuff, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, you know, you talked about being a massage therapist, and I get massages that actually help. They do help to relax me. They do help with some muscle soreness or tightness. I've had some release. So talk to me about, like, you've been a massage therapist. Talk to us about how that relates to tight muscles and
how you differ from that. Yeah.
Okay, well, as a massage therapist, when I was treating tight muscles, or as the active isolated stretching technician treating tight muscles, neither of them address why the muscle was tight. There's no doubt that muscles get tight, but none of the techniques out there were really addressing why they were tight. So if you're not addressing why they're tight, then letting something go can actually create more weakness.
Okay.
And what do you mean by letting something go for the people that are out there listening who go, they get massages when they have some tightness, they feel better after. So what's that whole process, and help them understand neurological weakness?
Okay, so let's take the example for the hamstrings, the tight hamstrings. Well, there are 4 primary hamstrings: your bicep femoris long and short, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. If any one of those is not working properly, neurologically sending the signals to do its job, then the other three, or however many are not working, have to work harder to maintain the stability at both the hip and the knee. So you can have tight hamstrings due to a weak hamstring. So if one muscle's not working and it puts all the other work on the other three, if you're getting the tight one to let go, you can actually create more looseness. And muscles should not be loose, because when you stretch something that's elastic, if you keep stretching it and it becomes loose, it's no longer able to do its job. Okay. So like if you were wanting to go biking or play any kind of sport, if you have tight shoelaces, that prevents you from being able to run properly. But if they're too loose, they can't run either. So it's not about tightness or looseness. They need to be well responsive. But stretching them or massaging them just teaches them to not be responsive at all.
Okay, so then how do you find the one out of the four? Because I technically have kind of tighter hamstrings. I know that from doing hot yoga and yoga. So how do you get to the root cause of finding which one's tight? I think that's the question.
Yes, that's the question, is how do you find one's not working? And that's, what I do is I'm like a body mechanic going through looking for neurological weakness or loose screws or wiring disconnect. So you got to go through and check to see if the muscle is responding. And unfortunately, the only way you can do that is by testing it manually. So I do a lot of testing manually. And then once I find out which one's not working, you get it working, then the muscle that was having to protect from the instability doesn't need to do that anymore.
That makes total sense.
Well, and it's a very defined way of looking, Michael, at a client's issues. And that's not so readily done by your normal massage therapist or even your physical therapist. Would you agree?
Right. A lot of it's just the opposite.
What do you mean by just the opposite? They just what?
So I've seen, so again, with the massage, it's okay, my hamstrings are tight, go massage them, let them go. Right. Well, there is, again, like I've been saying, if one hamstring is doing all the work, getting it to let go can actually create more instability at both the hip and the knee. Mm-hmm. So if the hip is unstable, that can create more pain in the knee or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. From rehab, doing certain exercises can be too much. If the resistance is too much for the muscle spindle that we're talking about here, as far as neurological weakness, if it's too much force for what's weak, then you bypass the weak link and you go into whatever can contract, which means you're going to reinforce whatever can work, neglecting what's not working. And over time, the strong will get stronger, but the weak stay weak, and you actually can magnify the imbalance, making things worse.
So, Michael, we know our subject pretty well, but for those that don't understand a muscle spindle, because it seems like things rotate around that importantly in the work that you do, can you explain what that is?
Well, it's like a signal that wraps around the muscle, because without the signal, the muscle is just a piece of meat. So the signal is what tells that piece of meat to contract, and it only works when something is pulling against it. So if you pull on it lightly, it works lightly. If you pull on it a lot, it pulls a lot. So that without that spindle, the muscle cannot control whatever it needs to control. And every muscle has multiple functions. So your hamstrings don't just flex the knee or extend the hip. They also help with rotation. They help rotation at the hip and the knee. So if they're doing that, then they're guiding the foot. So you can have a foot problem and it all be due to neurological weak hamstrings or neurologically weak any kind of hip muscle.
So what happens when you tear a muscle? How would you treat something like that? Because I hear a lot of clients come in, oh, I got a rotator or cuff tear or whatever. How would you work with something like that?
All right. If it is completely torn, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to repair the tear.
Right.
If it's partially torn, I can regenerate the signal back into what's there. Either way, if it's partially torn or full torn, making sure that the muscles that are supporting the shoulder, in this case, the shoulder rotator cuff muscles, making sure that whatever is left is doing its job properly. And then going through and looking at, well, what are you doing that created the rotator cuff tear? Because the rotator cuff is not really a thing that you can break. It's a series of muscles that encompass the shoulder capsule. So if the supraspinatus, which is the muscle superior on the shoulder that's usually torn, if it's not working, then you need to make sure that the deltoids and all the other muscles around the shoulder are doing their job the best they can.
So that's what you do, is you evaluate. If somebody said, well, I've got a shoulder, before you want to get them before they actually do damage to the muscles, what your work does. Is that correct?
Well, ideally, but even if someone has torn something, I mean, I have an article in one of the papers, the Bradenton Times, I believe, where one of my so it was a boyfriend and girlfriend. One played football, one played basketball. The guy tore his ACL playing football. The girl tore her ACL playing basketball. He went with reconstruction surgery, and he could not return. She went with just me doing all these tests without surgery and started her senior year in high school.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's really important. So I used to be a track. I was an athlete all through high school, track, basketball, other stuff, and then and in college too. And we learned, our track coach, taught us different stretching techniques. And I know that you've talked about some type of stretching that we all think we know, but so I don't know. I mean, people want to have joy and fun. It's the summertime. So talk to us about stretching and maybe properly preparing for going out to do some type of fitness or fun.
Well, and you have a book on stretching revolution, so let's hear about that, because everybody goes, oh, I need to stretch more. So
right.
Tell us your take on that, okay?
Well, as far as why it's called stretching revolution, for one, to get a muscle to relax, you have to turn the force around. Two, we've been taught how to stretch for so long the same way that it's actually a fight going against the mindset of traditional stretching. Because we've been taught to stretch to prepare for exercise, and we've been taught to stretch to relax. Well, the problem is we've been taught the same exact stretch for opposite ends of the stress spectrum.
Right.
If exercise is stress, relaxing is relaxation. How is it possible to do the same stretch for both ends? So it's not. So one of them has to be wrong. And when you look at how we're stretched, let's say we stretch to go running, well, where is when you do a runner stretch, you reach down, grab your toes, and you pull your chest to your knees, or you reach back, grab your ankle, and pull your foot to your butt. Okay, where are those positions in the motion of running? Where are any of the positions of stretching in the motions of exercise? Almost none of them are ever in there. So how is that really preparing you for the stresses of exercise? Or worse yet, if you're stretching to relax a muscle, which in most cases it does instantaneously, because you're stretching the spindle or the sensor, and if that sensor is stretched too much, then it can't communicate the muscle to the nervous system. So if you're stretching for exercise, but you're really relaxing the muscle, well, when you get ready to actually exercise, it can't communicate, and that's why people tear muscles in the sport that is just stretched for, because they just told the muscles, relax, 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 the whole time that they're pulling on it, making it work. So you're making it work because you're pulling it longer, but you're asking it to relax, and it can't do both. So it creates a dilemma in the nervous system. Should it work or should it relax? And 9 times out of 10, it actually relaxes, and it actually makes the muscle weak.
Wow. So how do you get to people before they wreck themselves? Like our like our children that are in sports, like the whole IMG Academy, all of this. This is great.
I've been trying to reach that crowd for a while, and it's very hard to get past I hate to say it, the egos of the sport, or the whatever it is, because they're so used to doing it a certain way. But as you saw with the rubber band earlier, and if you're trying to relax something, you can't pull it tight, because you're making it work when you pull it tight. And everybody knows this when it comes to exercise. So as an example, if I wanted to do a bicep curl or a tricep extension, the elbow is doing the same exact motion, but the direction of resistance determines which side of the bone is working. Yeah. So if the weight is pulling down, the bicep is working. If the resistance is pulling up, then the tricep is working. So we know when we're exercising, a resistance pulling the muscle longer is making it work. And we expect it to work that way it works. But for some reason, when we go stretching, we pretend that the muscle or the resistance pulling the muscle longer is somehow going to make it relax. And it creates, again, that disconnect in the nervous system, because you're sending a mixed signal, work, but relaxed at the same time.